Hello, in this video, I will show you how to sew a dress with a dropped waist and a puff skirt step by step. Let's start with sewing the front part of the dress. Please note that there are marks on the pattern indicating where the pieces should be joined together. You need to transfer these marks when cutting the dress pieces from the fabric. I have also made hand stitches along the center and waistline, bust lines to make it easier to align the pieces and to maintain the balance of the dress during sewing. These lines help to detect any fabric misalignment during assembly. First, I align the side panel with the center panel precisely at these marks, folding the pieces with the right sides together. Then, I use pins to align the pieces with each other. The side panel in the upper chest area will have a slight gathering that needs to be evenly distributed in this area and secured with additional pins. When sewing the pieces together, be sure to backstitch at the beginning and end of the seam. Now, it's time for pressing. I will iron the seams, especially in the chest area, using a special pressing ham that helps to shape the bust correctly. We'll press the seams. These will be open seams since the dress will be lined. What is an open seam? Seams can either be open or closed. An open seam is one where the seam allowance, the piece of fabric between the edge of the material and the stitches, is visible. If you want to sew this dress without lining, then I would recommend using a French seam so that the seams are hidden. Additionally, a French seam allows you to sew garments without using an overlocker. I would also like to add that if your iron does not have a special coating, always use calico fabric, placed on top of the ironed clothes. Calico fabric is the fabric from which sew bed linens are made. This way the iron will not leave any iron marks on the fabric. To prevent stretching of the fabric in the upper part, it's necessary to interface the upper edge with interfacing. Make sure to cut the interfacing correctly so that it doesn't stretch horizontally. Check which direction the interfacing stretches minimally and cut a strip 2 centimeters wide in that direction. The length of the strip should match the length of the upper edge of the dress. I cut the strips slightly longer than the length of the upper edge of the dress. It's better to cut with a small allowance. Since in the center of the center piece I have hand stitched, I remove it in the place where the strip of interfacing will be glued, so that the thread will not get between the fabric and the strip of interfacing. Starting from the middle of the upper edge, I lightly fix the interfacing strip without attaching it yet, only fixing it in place. Because if you attach the interfacing immediately, you won't be able to move it in the desired direction later. Therefore, first lightly press with an iron to fix it where the strip should be placed, and only then press it firmly with an iron. Pay special attention to the areas where seam allowances are located, and hold the iron there a little longer. Also important to trim any protruding seam allowances, thus ensuring the lines are aligned. Okay, the seams on the lower part of the pieces also need to be pressed open. This can be done without a special pressing ham, just on an ironing board. I trim any protruding seam allowances at the bottom edge, thereby aligning the bottom edge. I also remove the thread from the center so it doesn't get caught between the fabric and the strip of interfacing. I also cut a strip of interfacing for the lower edge. It needs to be interfaced as there will be a full skirt attached to it, which means a lot of fabric and weight. This way, we prevent stretching of the lower edge of the dress. Before joining the front part of the skirt with the front upper part of the dress, make sure you have marked the center on the skirt. Also, on the upper edge of the skirt, I sewed 2 stitch using the maximum stitch width on my sewing machine, which is 4 mm. The first stitch for gathering was sewn 0.5 cm from the edge, and the second stitch was sewn 0.2 cm from the first stitch. First, you'll need to join the skirt and the top at the center. Turn the upper part of the dress right side up, and turn the skirt wrong side facing up. Join them at the center. Make sure the pieces are aligned with the right sides facing together. Now, I'll gather the skirt on each side from the end to the center. The gathering should be done to match the length of each half of the bottom edge of the upper part of the dress. So, I take 2 threads and start gathering. Once I determine that I've gathered enough, I tie the threads to secure the gathering in place. Before attaching the skirt to the bottom edge of the dress's upper part, I evenly distribute the gathering and then pin it in place. I repeat the same process of gathering on the other side of the skirt from the end to the middle. To ensure that the side seam of the upper part of the dress and the skirt align, you need to leave a 1 cm seam allowance empty on the side panel of the dress. Then, when you turn the dress right side, you'll see that the side seams of the side panel and the skirt match up. When sewing, I also evenly distribute the gathering to ensure it's sewn on uniformly. Now, the seam allowances need to be directed towards the bottom of the skirt. I temporarily secure the seam allowances with hand stitches. Sewing the front part of the dress is complete. In the next part, we'll sew the back part of the dress.